At last, eternity is mine! With my phylactery complete, all that remains is to transfer my soul, and the multiverse will tremble at my approach. Something's wrong! No! That's what you get, you stupid. Welcome back to A Compendium of Monsters. It's Bone Claw Week. Before we continue, slash and claw that subscribe button to show that Bone Claw pride. Your support helps me out a lot. Bone Claws are challenge level 12, and there's nothing tween-y about them. These large undead have an armor class of 16, average hit points of 127, a speed of 40 feet, and dark vision out to 60 feet. Bone Claws have resistance to cold damage and necrotic damage, as well as bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks. Bone Claws have no damage immunity, but are immune to the following conditions: charmed, exhausted, frightened, paralyzed, and poisoned. Wait just a f***ing second. Bone Claws are immune to the poisoned condition, but aren't immune or at least resistant to poison damage? Let's check a few similar undead to see. Liches? Immune. Zombies? All types. Immune. Skeletons? Immune. The only undead I could quickly locate that are not immune to poison damage or the poison condition are vampires, which contrast from the rest of these undead in that there's technically blood flowing through their bodies. Definitely not their blood, but still. What the hell, wizards? How did you not catch this obvious misprint? Okay, since Bone Claws are an undead that do not have blood flowing through their bodies, they are officially immune to poison damage. You heard it here first. Bone Claws have two abilities, Shadow Stealth and Rejuvenation. Shadow Stealth allows Bone Claws to take the hide action as a bonus action when they are in dim light or darkness. Rejuvenation, however, is proof that someone at Wizards just writes a word down, pulls out a thesaurus, and chooses the first thing they see. As written, Rejuvenation causes a Bone Claw to form a new body within 1d10 hours of its death. This body appears within 1 mile of a special individual, so long as that individual is alive. Rejuvenation as a definition, however, is the action or process of giving new, keyword new, energy to something, the restoration of a youthful appearance to something, or restoring a river or stream to a condition characteristic of a younger landscape. The problem with using Rejuvenation to describe the Bone Claw's process of reforming its body is that the Bone Claw does not gain new energy, become youthful, or really fit any part of the definition of rejuvenate. The energy that makes up the Bone Claw simply reforms into the same exact body in a spot designated by the ability's description. If the Bone Claw somehow became stronger after each death, that would be considered rejuvenation, and might become something I throw at my players. One acceptable replacement for rejuvenation is reconstitution, defined as the action of building something up again, reconstruction, or add water, because this dehydrated clearly needs a glass or two. For their actions, Bone Claws have a basic multi-attack that allows them to make 2 piercing claw attacks. 9-inch nails got nothing on this. This attack has a 10-foot range and is deeply integrated into the rest of the Bone Claw's stat block. Piercing Claw inflicts significant piercing damage and allows the Bone Claw to grapple the target without sacrificing any damage. Each claw can grapple one target, but once a claw has a target grappled, the Bone Claw must use its claw attack on a creature it has grappled with said claw. The grapple also allows the Bone Claw to pull the creature up to 10 feet into melee range without expending an action, free action, bonus action, etc. The average damage for both claw attacks is 40, which is objectively low for a challenge level 12 creature, but the Bone Claw makes up for this with the rest of its stat block. Piercing Claw ties directly into the next action, Shadow Jump. Not just for Corvo Atano or Emily Caldwin, Bone Claws can use Shadow Jump to force creatures of the Bone Claw's choice within 5 feet to make a Constitution saving throw or take a large amount of necrotic damage before the Bone Claw teleports up to 60 feet away to a space it can see. Bone Claws may only take one creature that they're grappling with, so if 2 are grabbed, don't worry! Only one is probably making it alive anyhow. Perhaps an obvious restriction of Shadow Jump is that both the entry spaces and destination spaces must be in dark or dim light. Otherwise, you could call it and save yourself some trouble. Lastly, Bone Claws have a reaction. Deadly Reach. This allows a Bone Claw to attack a creature that walks into the Bone Claw's reach. If the first claw attack hits, the Bone Claw can make a second attack against the creature. Thankfully, this reaction cannot be made against multiple creatures in a round, but it allows the Bone Claw the potential to put out some serious damage. Deadly Reach combined with its Piercing Claw multi-attack puts the possible average damage for a Bone Claw up at 80 damage per round, which is on par for most challenge level 12 creatures. Bone Claws are created when the ritual to become a Lich goes poorly, trapping the would-be Lich in a state of undeath that strips them of their hubris and independence. Specifically, bone claws form when spellcasters attempt to transfer their soul into their phylactery, but are either too physically weak or magically inept to compel their soul into its prison. The soul then departs to find a new master with an unusually hate-filled heart, because there ain't no rest for the wicked. Bone claws are bound to their master's wishes and subconscious desires, though the master may not even know a bone claw serves them until a grisly trail of murder suddenly overlaps with their life. Occasionally, a bone claw will form near its master to receive direct orders. Wouldn't that be some spooky just minding your business and surprise, motherfucker! Bone claws cannot be destroyed while their masters live and reform at a maximum of 10 hours after their previous death. Given how difficult it can be to kill a bone claw, finding and dealing with the bone claw's master quickly becomes a race against the clock. But what happens if a bone claw binds itself to a child? Is it justifiable to murder a child in cold blood for harboring resentment and anger, likely against circumstances outside their control? Fortunately for this circumstance, there is a second way to eradicate bone claws. If the bone claw's master is turned away from evil and sincerely redeems themselves, the bone claw is immediately destroyed. But while bone claws are alive, the area they prowl is racked with terror as horrifying kills and tales of cackling in the night become common. Bone claws relish killing and love to inflict terrible pain on their victims before disposing of their shredded bodies. One of these days, I need to do a compendium entry for something fluffy and harmless. Bone claws favor environment with lots of shadow. Surprise! No shit, considering half their stat block depends on being in dim light or total darkness. Bone claws are great creatures for murder mystery games of Dungeons & Dragons. It's easy to determine a bone claw dislikes or is negatively affected by light if your DM has the bone claw shirk away from an encounter in a brightly lit room with no obvious bane in sight. Or imagine the horror you'd experience if someone was suddenly grabbed by long claws and dragged into a dark room before the door slammed shut and was blocked. With a strength score of 19, bone claws are pretty jacked, even if their bony bodies leave much to be desired. DMs! Killing your players with a bone claw is trivial. With an intelligence score of 13, bone claws have enough intelligence to form complex plans to f with your party, and the bone claw will enjoy every minute of it. It's best if you fight your players outside, which allows you to do several things. Maximize the bone claw's maneuverability, decrease the likelihood that your players can light trap the bone claw, and allow for a strategy I call bonk splat. For bonk splat, your bone claw needs to have grappled a player character before the bone claw's turn starts. With the grappled player character, have the bone claw approach as many other player characters it can before triggering shadow jump to the edge of the nearest roof. Because the space immediately off of the roof is considered unoccupied for the sake of teleporting, your player's character will end up held over the ledge by the bone claw, who can then release the player for free points of fall damage. Use shadow stealth to hide the bone claw, and presto! Bonk splat plus paranoia. Other tactics for bone claws include having them teleport to your casters, rangers, or other ranged player characters. This forces melee player characters to chase the bone claw and subject themselves to deadly reach. Assuming your squishy wizard player character runs away with disengage or misty step, your bone claw will get an opportunity for deadly reach against melee pursuers to possibly inflict 40 damage and then additional damage from shadow jump to all melee player characters as the bone claw pursues the squishy target without exposing itself to opportunity attacks. Bone claws are smart enough to not engage your player's characters in a well-lit environment, as the bone claw loses its precious advantage of being able to hide and teleport around the battlefield. If your players use light spells to try and stop the bone claw from reaching its intended, presumably NPC target, just remember that death is inconsequential for a bone claw. Pleasing its master takes precedence over its own life, especially since it knows it will respawn at the same level of power it had before. Players! You're up against a very dangerous opponent who you can't defeat by conventional means. Sure, you can blow up the bone claw and use light spells to lock it down, but it'll reconstitute shortly after you kill it. If you see a bone claw and you care about the area it's trashing, you need to start asking around to try and find a link between the murders, since they usually all trace back to a single entity. Once you get on the trail, it's likely you'll get attacked by the bone claw, so keep these things in mind. If you're a melee class and you approach the bone claw, you run the likelihood of getting both attacked and grappled. If you're a spellcaster, it's highly likely the bone claw will harass you, forcing disengages if you don't want to get mown down. Bone claws are highly inconvenienced by all forms of light, so keep those light cantrips handy. Hell, you could arguably cast light on the bone claw and make it its own worst enemy. The average roll of a d10 for the bone claw's reconstitution is 5.5, rounded up to 6. 6 hours isn't enough time to get a long rest done, but it allows for a short rest where you can spend hit die to patch up. Time is of the essence with bone claws, which is funny considering time favors bone claws, but whatever. Favor is relative, right? Anyways, what do you all think of bone claws? Let me know in the comments below. A special thank you to my patrons. And thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, share my video on your Twitter, Facebook, or other social media, and make the leap to become one of my patrons on Patreon. I'll see you all next time.